Now, there are two ways in which we deal with statistical principles. The first one is descriptive statistics. Now, as a company which sells sanitizers, there are two ways in which you can benefit from your data. The first one is rather straightforward. Now, let's say you've been operating for the last 2 years. So you probably have a lot of data around what has happened in the last 2 years. Now, when you're trying to study your last 2 years of data to only understand what happened in those last 2 years, that would be descriptive analysis. When you try and study that same 2 years of data to try and predict what is going to happen in the next, say, 2 or 3 quarters, that's predictive analysis. The other kind of analysis, the third kind, is the prescriptive analysis. How do you conduct an exit poll? So let's try and deep dive into this question. What is this question exactly trying to ask us? Now, what is an exit poll? What's the purpose of an exit poll? We are trying to predict what the election results in West Bengal are going to be like. What we'll now talk about is different types of statistics, or it wouldn't be fair to call them different types of statistics. In fact, it'd be better if we called them two different schools of thoughts with different objectives in mind. Now, there are two ways in which we deal with statistical principles. The first one is descriptive statistics. Now, descriptive statistics is something that helps you analyze historical information and helps you learn something out of it. Based on whatever history you've looked at, based on what has happened historically, you try and learn something about that. Now, that's descriptive statistics. Now, let's say you're a company that sells sanitizers. Now, as a company which sells sanitizers, there are two ways in which you can benefit from your data. The first one is rather straightforward. Now, let's say you've been operating for the last 2 years. So you probably have a lot of data around what has happened in the last 2 years. Now, let's say this is the entire data that you have for the last 2 years. When the purpose of a statistical analysis is to look at this data and understand what has happened there. Now, the way you try and understand that could be different. You could either be using summary statistics, or you could be using graphs and visualizations. I'm sure people would have looked at the applications of visual. We all know that visualizations are one of the best ways to ingest information. Information comes easy when it comes in a visual way, which means that how you analyze your data is a different question altogether. But when you try and study some data, some historical information, and try and understand why certain things happened or how certain things happened, but you restrict all of that analysis to the data that you have. You do not try and extrapolate something about anything new. You're looking at some data, you try and learn something from that data, and you restrict all your analysis to what has happened historically. There's nothing that you do after this. As long as your analysis happens in this space, this kind of an analysis is called descriptive analysis. Now, if you think about different kinds of analysis, there are three popular types of analysis. There is descriptive, which we just talked about. So trying to answer things like why sales in a certain region was low in the month of June, how much has sales increased over the last 2 years. Now, these are all questions that you're trying to find answers to from the data that you've got. Now, this kind of analysis would be called descriptive analysis. The other kinds of analysis would be predictive, which means can I look at the sales of the last 2 years and understand what I can expect in terms of sales over the next 2 quarters. Now, when you're trying to find answers to these kinds of questions by looking at historical information, when you're trying to predict something into the future, it could be a prediction, it could be a forecast. No matter what that is, when you try and study history and try and learn something or infer something or predict something for the future, that's when the analysis goes to a predictive form. This kind of analysis is called a predictive analysis. When you're trying to study your last 2 years of data to only understand what happened in those last 2 years, that would be descriptive analysis. When you try and study that same 2 years of data to try and predict what is going to happen in the next, say, 2 or 3 quarters, that's predictive analysis. The other kind of analysis, the third kind, is the prescriptive analysis. What's prescriptive analysis? Prescriptive analysis not only does not talk about predictions, it's not about reading history, but it's about trying to understand processes. To give you an example, let's say you're a marketing manager. And you're basically marketing your product across 3 channels. You've got TV, you've got newspapers. In fact, there could be many channels, let's say digital and billboards, let's say 4 channels. Now let's say these are your 4 channels across which you're marketing your product. Now, descriptive analysis would tell you what's happened historically in this case, and we've sort of understood what descriptive analysis is. Predictive analysis would help you look at what has happened, say, in the last 6 months or last 2 years in terms of sales, and sales is driven by your marketing efforts. So what has happened in the last 6 months in terms of sales? Will I be able to leverage that to predict what's going to happen, or can I get a sense of what can be expected in the next 3 months or in the next 6 months? That analysis would be predictive. But there's still a question that begs to be asked. And that question is, let's say, and all of this, we are going to learn, these skills, we are going to learn descriptive skills, we are going to learn predictive skills. But there's still a question that needs to be answered. And that question could be, let's say you identified how your marketing efforts across these 4 channels ultimately result in sales. Let's say you've identified that through some sort of equation, you've created a functional form wherein you are able to say that sales is a function of the money that you're spending in TV, the money that you're spending in newspaper, the money that you're spending in digital, and the money that you're spending on billboards. Let's say you are able to establish this. This is the end objective of a data science program, right? You want to be able to come to a situation where you can analyze historical information and build functional relationships like this, such that you are able to know that if somebody tells you that I'm going to spend, say, $100 on TV, a certain X dollars here, a certain Y dollars here, and certain Z dollars here, based on these inputs, we are able to give back saying that, okay, at these levels of spends, based on how your company has been running historically and how sales have behaved, you'd be able to predict that, okay, this is the amount of sales that you can expect, say, in the next month. Now, this is predictive analysis. What we still can't answer is, let's say I get an additional $1,000. My marketing budget, let's say, was $50,000, and now an additional $10,000 has been introduced into the budget. If I get those additional 10,000, where do I spend it? I've got 4 channels across which I'm trying to spend, but I have gotten a sense of how these channels. So when you build models like these, we learn how to build these models. When you build models like these, you would be able to understand, based on what your inputs are and based on what your spends are, what the expected level of sales could be. But you still want to answer questions like, if I get an additional $10,000, where do I spend it? Now, automatically, common sense would dictate that the channel that gives you the best ROI is, is return on investment, right? So you want to invest that additional $1,000 in a channel that's going to give you maximum sales. Now, this analysis is not exactly predictive, neither is it descriptive. This kind of analysis is called prescriptive analysis. When you try and study the fundamental process that is running a certain, situation, that's running a certain scenario, you try and understand that process, and you try and then leverage that understanding to further improve the process. So what can be done to get better at what you're doing? Now, these kinds of questions are answered inside prescriptive analysis. Now, descriptive analysis we already looked at, and descriptive analysis is what gets covered in most of descriptive statistics. When we go over to the next part of statistics, that's when we handle these two kinds of questions. And that is inferential statistics. We try and give you predictive and prescriptive insights. Now, you need to understand the difference between these three insights. So descriptive is the most basic. Descriptive basically helps you look at the data that you have historically. Let's say you had last 2 years of sales data. You knew that you spent, for every month, you know how much sales happened for the company, and you know exactly how much money you spent across these 4 channels, 4 marketing channels. Now you look at that data and you try and understand what happened, why it happened, how it happened. So questions like, let's say you're a company that is selling pan India, then you try and understand in which region your sales have gone down, say in the last quarter, in which regions your salespersons are performing very well, which salesperson specifically is doing the best. So questions which require you to study historical data and understand what happened then, and just restrict the analysis to that. You don't try and predict anything. You don't try and make any sense out of it, in the sense that you don't try and understand. You're not trying to derive functional forms. You're not trying to find inherent processes. You're just interested in looking at data and understanding how and what happened. As long as analysis is restricted to that, that would be considered descriptive analysis. And for that, we have a whole branch of statistics called descriptive statistics. Okay. All right. So we talked about descriptive statistics. The next school of thought inside statistics would be inferential statistics. Now, what's inferential statistics? Well, this is where it gets interesting, and this is where it becomes really, really useful. Now, think of a simple scenario. Now, we've all seen elections, right? We've seen elections all through our lives. Think about, let's say, an election, let's say the West Bengal elections. They just happened. Let's say the elections have happened. Now, once these elections happen, that's when the news agencies, start working on it. You've heard of exit polls, right? How do you think an exit poll is how do you think an exit poll is conducted? How would you conduct, if I asked you to conduct an exit poll, how would you do it? What would be your approach for West Bengal? The elections have just happened, and let's say I want to conduct an exit poll. How would I do that? What would be my approach? Can you think about it? Common sense. Most of data science is common sense. As long as you keep using that, you'll find all of this is very intuitive. How would you conduct an exit poll? So let's try and deep dive into this question. What is this question exactly trying to ask us? Now, what is an exit poll? What's the purpose of an exit poll? We are trying to predict what the election results in West Bengal are going to be like, right? Now, let's say the population of West Bengal is conservatively around 10 crores. The population of West Bengal is 10 crores. What's the correct, absolutely right way of knowing who is going to win? The absolutely right way of finding that out would be to actually reach out to these people, all these people, and find out what their voting preference is. Am I right? If I could do that, I would be able to know who is going to win. Right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But that's virtually impossible, right? If I were able to do that, then we wouldn't need our election commission. If a news agency could go out and ask the voting preference of every person in West Bengal, you wouldn't really need an election commission to do exit polls. The problem there is that this is a very huge size, right? Virtually reaching out to 10 crores is almost impossible, right? These many people. This is a very large population, and we are trying to understand how the population behaves. We are trying to understand on an average level what's the orientation and what's the preference of this whole entire population, which is as large as 10 crores. Now, this is where inferential statistics, this seems like a impossible problem, right? How do I know what 10 crore people think without actually, knowing, without actually being able to get out to them? And getting out to them is insanely costly. We can't virtually go out to every person in West Bengal and know what his preference is, which means that we need to figure out a strategy which allows us to not go out to the entire population, yet be able to say something about the entire population, right? We need to figure out that strategy. And that is what inferential statistics does for us. What inferential statistics says is that in a lot of situations, you are going to encounter populations that are simply huge. which makes them unreachable. It's not possible to collect data for the entire population and then know what that population thinks about. If we are able to do that, there's no better way of understanding what the population wants. But in a lot of real life scenarios, you will find that the kinds of problems or the kinds of questions that you're trying to find answers to, you wouldn't be able to collect the entire data that is, supposed to be collected in those scenarios, which means that these populations can be so huge that you wouldn't be able to actually reach out to the entire population. That's where inferential statistics says that you don't need to. What you need to do is you actually need to just draw out a sample. Now the bigger chunk is what we call the population. This chunk we are going to call a sample. What inferential statistics allows us to do is, it does two things for us. First, and one that we can conceive very easily, is that it helps us study a sample and then infer something about a population, which means that you only, let's say this sample is 1% of the entire data, or even less than that, let's say 0.1% of the entire data. You want to draw a sample, study that sample, and then be able to extrapolate your learnings that you've generated from that particular sample to the entire population. Now, this isn't a very easy thing to do, right? It gives you a process. It does enable you, but it enables you in two ways. It first allows you to build very good samples. You understand that, building a sample is very important in this case, right? The kind of sample you build will affect the kind of results that you get. If your sample isn't indicative enough of the entire population, then you can't expect to get a good sense of what the population thinks. So first and the most important thing in inferential statistics is to realize that getting to the population is not possible, which means that I'll have to work with a smaller chunk. That chunk I'm going to call a sample. So the first thing that inferential statistics will help me do is build that sample intelligently. Now there's several ways in which samples can be drawn, samples can be created. Now these ways, we're going to study some of these ways in the few days that to come in this week. And we'll try and understand what sampling theory is all about and what are some of the most popular ways in which sampling is done in real life. So that's one part of it. So you first draw a sample that is good enough. And when I say a sample that is good enough, what I'm indicating is a sample that helps us understand the population, a sample that is indicative enough. So we first draw a good sample. Once we draw that, inferential statistics allows us to study for the sample and then extrapolate for the population. The process of analyzing a sample and then inferring something about a population, this entire process is what inferential statistics helps us do. So do you understand the value of inferential statistics? Now, descriptive statistics is restricted to the amount of data that you've calculated. The descriptive statistics in this case that can be run is for the sample only. Descriptive statistics, the restriction in descriptive statistics is that whatever you learn out of descriptive statistics will only be valid for this sample, whereas inferential statistics will help you take the next step, which will be to use that learning that you've generated and extrapolate it for the population in general, which is why exit polls is not an easy thing to do, and which is why a lot of exit polls have been failing. Keep failing on and off, right? The reason for that is it's not a easy question to solve. It's not an easy problem to solve. It requires some really good statisticians, and not all news agencies will have them, right? So statisticians are a dying breed. It's unfortunate, but it's true. But the reason why exit polls is one of the most difficult statistical problems that statisticians have solved is because of this complexity. You have a very large population, but inferential statistics helps you solve that problem. It helps you, it gives you ways such that you've got to only collect data. So even collection of data can be a huge problem. Collection of data can be really costly. So if you go out and try and collect data for the entire population, let's say you want to understand what all the 8th graders in the country are thinking, it's really impossible to get out to all 8th graders in the country and ask them their opinion. Whereas it'd be much easier if you went to every state, picked a few schools, some public, some private, maybe picked a few 8th graders out of each of these schools, some good performers, some bad performers. So you try and rationalize and generalize the sample as much as possible, but you still work with a very small percentage, a very small fraction of the total population that you've got to work with. And yet The power of inferential statistics allows you to infer things about the population in general. So this is a very major data science problem that inferential statistics will help you solve. What to do when you can't really get to the entire data, when it's not possible to get to the entire data, the data that is required to actually answer the question that you've been asked. That's where inferential statistics comes in.